Good morning and welcome to this virtual worship gathering of the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Richmond. My name is Denise Rhymes and I'm pleased to serve this community on our board of directors. Thank you so much for joining us on this winter morning. If you're a visitor here, we welcome you and we're so glad you joined us today. If you're new to Unitarian Universalism, please check out our website. You can join our Facebook group, or you can reach out by email to membership@richmonduu.org. Be sure to join us also right after today's service for virtual coffee hour so that you can meet some of your fellow churchgoers. A couple of important announcements this morning. Last year, we feared we would need to make wage cuts to staff to avoid a budget deficit. We didn't know what the COVID pandemic would bring us. But so far, your generosity has allowed us to avoid that. Members passed the budget last year with cuts, but stated that they wished to adopt an aspirational budget of $60,000 plus in revenues to assure staff cuts could be avoided. And that is exactly what happened. With faith in the second half of the year seeing more of the same, we can now officially adopt the aspirational budget as the actual working budget. This means we set salaries at the uncut levels and have added $60,000 to the revenues of the budget. We'll monitor these numbers carefully as we continue forward. The staff sends its great appreciation, who note that your commitment to their work with further appreciation for the members who stirred the congregation to greater vision in the chaos of COVID, and with heartfelt thanks for the entire board's leadership, we all go forward. These have been difficult days, uncertain yet full of simple acts of kindness and care. The love and care of this community persists no matter what. What we dream, we can actually do. On a somewhat related topic, related of course to COVID, because isn't everything these days, many of you have asked if there's been any decision as to when we might return to church in person. Our staff has been following the CDC recommendations very closely and also have been receiving advice and counsel from the UUA. Safety is our number one concern, rooted in our theology of our first principle around the inherent worth and dignity of every person, our second principle, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, and our seventh principle, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. With full consideration of our values, we will return when all of our members and friends, including our youth and young adults, have access to the COVID vaccine. Unequal and inequitable access to health care has been such an issue during this pandemic, and this decision is a significant way for us to do our part to bring greater equity. We'll continue to have all of the fabulous offerings via technology that we've grown accustomed to and that we've been offering since the beginning of the pandemic. We'll keep you posted as the COVID environment continues to evolve and change, and perhaps as we get closer to a time when we can all be together again. Welcome to this joyful Sunday made sacred by all of us being together, worshiping and sharing time with each other.
Our childish lighting for this morning are words from Ralph Waldo Emerson. There's no great and no small to the soul that maketh all. Where it cometh, all things are, and it cometh everywhere.
Good morning. This Sunday, our service will focus on a new report. It comes from the Commission for Institutional Change, chartered in 2017 to assess the need in our Unitarian Universalist lives to open up the circle of inclusion among us and to examine the ways in which we may be working against ourselves when we say each person has inherent worth and dignity. The report was generated by a committee chaired by the former intern of this church, the Reverend Leslie Takahashi Morris, who serves our Mount Diablo congregation in California. She was joined by others: Mary Byron, Sir Labert, Elias Ortega. Dr. Ortega was with us last year for homecoming. Reverend Dr. Natalie Fenimore, Caitlin Breedlove, DeRoe Farrar, and they had a project manager, Marcus Figliano, who kept them moving all the way through. This book is available at the In Spirit bookstore at the UUA website. And we have a few copies left if you wish to purchase, but generally we've got a lot of people reading it and talking about it. And if you're just discovering that there is such a report, well, welcome. We're going to get you caught up. Welcome. Welcome to a time of worship with our congregation, hearing about important things that we should all discuss and care about. Good morning. We're so glad you're here.
This morning's reading is called Principles to Guide Work. The Commission spent time discerning the guiding principles with which to address our work to end systematic oppression in our association. Informed by the experience we each bring to this work, these will evolve, but we begin with these premises. We need our practice of Unitarian Universalism and our fellow Unitarian Universalists to call us into living the fullness of the theology we inherit and proclaim. Transformation is needed at all levels of our association to abandon dysfunctional cultural expressions of our theology and polity. The covenants that bind us together, both within our own faith and to our partners in the world, are frayed and broken by the domination of white supremacy culture among us. To keep Unitarian Universalism alive, we must center the voices that have been silenced or drowned out and dismantle elitist and exclusionary white privilege, which inhibits connection and creativity. In this effort, we should be guided by the promising spots of creativity and learning, where new multicultural and multi-generational expressions of our faith are found. Principles to guide work. Let us join in a time of meditation.
Will you join me now in a time of meditation, of stillness, of peace?
Join me now in a time of prayer or reflection. If you like the word reflection, try prayer. If you like the word prayer, try reflection. Join me now, opening our hearts to what is ultimate, true, and essential in life. Spirit of life, hear the words of these people. 1,000 things rattle through our minds. Many make their way to our hearts, some into our body, our backbone, our feet, our hands. Help us to be a people of gratitude for the moments in which peace comes, joy comes, understanding comes. Help us to be grateful for the times of companionship, virtual though it may be, for the people who do amazing things, especially those who care for the sick, who see to the work that must be done, to those who take care of the children, who become teachers and tutors in addition to being loving parents. Help us be grateful for the grandparents, for the aunts or the uncles or the neighbors who know how challenging it feels to you right now. Help us to be grateful for the kind word, the thoughtful text, the mailed card even. To be grateful that someone thought, that someone acted, that someone cared. Because so often we measure when we feel alone. Help us to measure when we feel included and seen and understood and appreciated. And help us to spread that feeling to all of those who are just simply out there, getting by day after day. Let us reach out to build relationships in kindness, compassion, with humor and generosity, and a sense of determination that we will get through difficult days and we'll be stronger, perhaps more patient, calmer, maybe self-contained, not quite needing all the things we thought we needed before. Spirit of love and of life, we are being changed. Help us change one another toward goodness and love. May this be our prayer, our reflection, our motivation in the day. Amen, Ashe, Amen. Blessed be.
Ubi caritas et
To create a Sunday sermon, I usually have to think about it, read some things, write it down, and then try 5 different times to videotape it. And today, I've tried, and it's growing late in the day because I don't know exactly how to tell you about what I want to speak about. Now, if you read ahead, you know that my title is about widening the circle of concern, which is the report of the Commission on Institutional Change, a commission set up by the UUA to examine the question of what changes are required if we are really, as a faith, to transcend the limits of racism so prevalent in this world and in this country and even among us. It's a report that was commissioned in 2017, and I have friends who've worked on it. It's an important report. But though they have written a very nice report, it is at the same time difficult. And that's the difficulty of this sermon. Because however the commission started all these things, no one thing created this commission. No set of events led to it any more than any others. Because there have been for a long time a number of events that unfold often in UU congregations, which lead to people of color feeling unwelcome. And because of that, this report is really important for our congregation. It's really important for us to think about, to read and to consider. Now, I know there's about 40 generous souls who have already engaged in reading and talking about the questions that rise from this text. 45 leaders and people who really want to unpack things and understand. I appreciate you so much because you're out in front doing it. But I really feel as though the whole congregation needs to read this report because it's also about us. It is. It is about First Unitarian Universalist. It's about Glen Allen. It's about Williamsburg. It's about Fredericksburg. It's about every congregation in our faith. We're going to ask that they put a link in the chat because you can read the whole thing online. They tell me not to advise you to read it on Kindle. You can get it on Kindle, but it's not easy or good. So it's the bound copy available at the In Spirit bookstore at uua.org, or it's the text itself. So you just Google, or you just go to the UUA website and look in the directory for widening the circle of concern. Now, why is this important to you and me? Well, much as I know we would love to think of ourselves as being above average, as being a congregation that has done a lot of work on its own anti-racism, as much as that may be true, there's still a long way to go. The report names times and ways in which congregations in the UUA have not understood how to be welcoming, where we have not really lived out the values we say we have. That's as true for us as any other congregation. Through the kindness of many of our own members of color and visitors of color. I can tell you lots of times where, in fact, we drove people away or offended them or just showed that we weren't even seeing them. And it's painful. I mean, there's a laundry list I can share with you, and it just pains me to even say them. Now, I say that myself knowing that every person here struggles with racism. A couple of years ago, I took great heart in reading Why I Am an Anti-Racist by Dr. Ibram Kendi, because he's a man of color, he is a man who has done much study, and he says he still can fall into his own racism. And he tells us what he's doing to confront it. Thank goodness, because sometimes it creeps up on you and you don't even realize the assumptions that are being made. Now, that is true also in the way we think about our faith, in the way we disregard the importance of theology sometimes, and we do from time to time. The way in which we imagine our congregation as a take it or leave it place where you can believe anything you want, and that nothing really should be asked of you as a member of the community. Or that if you're asked for something, you expect something in return. That comes from another place than our UU values. But quite simply, Indigenous, Black, Latinx folks have come to our congregation and experienced a dominant culture that doesn't seem to hold much regard for their culture. They have come, and in the parlance of anti-racism work, they have been othered. In other words, in conversation or in practice, it was made apparent to them that they are other, not quite a member of the group, or not quite knowing about our ways of doing things, or not quite white. Every institution in this country that borrowed any practices from any place else in our culture probably bears the trace of racism within it. A lot of our assumptions of culture, things that are normative, are really things that white people decided would be normative for them. And more importantly, there's a way in which, when we fail to welcome and include everyone, when we fail to stretch ourselves to understand really adaptive other ways that people have of doing things, we rob ourselves as a community. We say that we want to be a beloved community, a place where everyone is received equally, and everyone feels that this is a community they can trust and be a part of and do good together. I know that's what we want. I know that's what we strive to do. But sometimes we don't even notice that some of the assumptions we make may be repelling the very people we want to invite in. Therefore, though it would be lovely if you joined a book group and studied it together, I want you to read this. Because for some of us, the information it has in it will be hard to process. For others, it will be, yes, that's the truth. But what is really essential is for us to look over everything we're doing, how we are doing it, why we are doing it, and ask a simple question. How does this bring people into beloved community? And why are the things we're doing our commitments? Are there better, richer, deeper, more generous commitments we should be making? Are there recognitions we should make about what church might be in the 21st century so that this church will actually be here in the 22nd century? And in a time where religious communities are shuttering their doors and, well, you can go to numerous congregations in Richmond on a Sunday and find 50 people there, period. In a time like this, there is a true opportunity to hold up and offer community to everyone, and in the process to take a journey together of learning and growing and deepening ourselves, of bringing all the things that are good, but tossing over a few things that have become obsolete, unnecessary, and just distract us from the beauty of this community. So, we need to read, we need to plan, we need to review, we need to discuss, and we need to act. Our larger UU community has been trying over and over again to do this over the past 30 years. And now seems like a great time to really work on things. After all, if you can take statues down on Monument Avenue, we surely can do great work in this congregation to face up and to ask ourselves, how truly do we become a beloved community? Get reading. Blessed be.
In the midst of pain, I choose love. In the midst of pain, I choose love. In the midst of pain, sorrow falling down like rain, I await the sun again. I choose love. I choose love. In the midst of war, I choose peace. In the midst of war, I choose peace. In the midst of war, hate and anger keep its score. I will seek the good once more. I choose
Imagine having the power to get the city to build over 1,000 affordable housing units. Imagine then telling the city they had to do better and put $10 million a year in their affordable housing trust fund. Then imagine pressing the local hospitals to create entry-level jobs for citizens from our most at-risk communities. And beyond that, imagine getting Richmond schools to adopt a curriculum proven to get at-risk students reading to grade level. Well, imagine no more, because RISC has done just that in the past few years. RISC is this month's Share the Plate organization. RISC, Richmonders Evolve to Strengthen Our Communities, is a grassroots congregation-based organization comprised of over 20 diverse interfaith congregations throughout the greater Richmond region, and our church is one of the RISC's most active member congregations. RISC is currently working on 2 issues that result from systemic racism. The first is the lack of affordable housing in our city's eviction crisis. We've done good work in the past, but more work to ensure that the $10 million for Hung Trust Fund is actually budgeted. The second is gun violence. RISC has done a great deal of research on a best practices solution, but the city wants to create its own, which will take more time and not have any way to know if it will work. Clearly, RISC has its work cut out for it. So please support RISC so that together we can fix our community's broken systems. The offer will now be taken and gratefully received.
We extinguish our chalice to these words from Viola Abbott. Toward a place of wholeness. We were brought here today by the fact that Unitarian Universalism has fallen short of the image that was presented to the world and to many of those who embraced this religion. But we are also brought here today by the truth that Unitarian Universalism has shifted course to move toward a place of wholeness, a place that perhaps never existed for us in our denomination. It has been a long and sometimes unforgiving road to today, but we are here today because we are mindful of that past and because we have hope for the future. We want the practice of this faith to be a fulfilling manifestation of its promise. Hold on to hope and go in peace.
Touches one affects us all. The seas that wash us round about, the clouds that cover us, the rains that fall. Our world is one world. The thoughts we think affect us all. The way we build our attitudes with love or hate we make a bridge or wall. Our world is one world. Its ways of wealth affect us all. The way we spend, the way we share, who are the rich or poor, who stand or fall. Our world is one world, just like a ship that bears us all, where fear and greed make many holes, but where the hearts can heal.
This month, in honor of Black History Month, we're going to create an opportunity for you to join in discussing the work of Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, The Souls of Black Folk. The first chapter will be discussed today. Our Spiritual Strivings, Chapter 1. It's not very long. But let's come to this discussion led by Dr. Charlene Sinclair and Ms. Benita Kirk, bringing our whole self, our heart, our body, not just our minds. We hope for a very real discussion of this wonderful work of Dr. Du Bois. That's in the coffee hour today and every Sunday of February. And now for our benediction. We had not arrived knowing it was our opportunity to widen the circle. But friends have spent much time asking the questions, examining the evidence, and inviting us in. It is now possible that we are aware of how we might widen the circle and how we might read and learn and grow because of their generosity and their devotion. Let us now go out with a heart to widen the circle, but eager to enrich our skills. First, to do no harm, and then to do the world a great joy. Blessed be, and thank you all for being here today.